The town of Red Hollow sat under a wide, burning western sky. Dust rolled across its empty streets, and wind rattled loose signs on tired wooden buildings. It was the kind of town that felt forgotten by time. Everyone in town knew about the old Mercer Ranch. They said the land was cursed. They said the ground remembered terrible things. People avoided even walking past the gate after sunset. Eli Carter didn't believe in curses. He believed in second chances. He had lost his cattle, his crops, and almost his dignity. When the opportunity came to buy the Mercer Ranch for almost nothing, he took it without hesitation. A cheap ranch, even a cursed one, was still a chance to start again. On his first afternoon there, Eli was repairing a broken fence post when he heard slow footsteps on wood. A woman stood beyond the gate. Her dress was simple. Her eyes were full of fear. "Don't dig," she whispered. Eli wiped the sweat from his hands. "I'm just fixing what's broken." She stepped closer to the fence, her voice dropping to almost nothing. "That is forbidden," she whispered. Before Eli could ask her what she meant, she turned and disappeared down the dusty road. The warning stayed with him longer than he wanted to admit. That night, the wind felt heavier. The ranch house groaned with old, tired sounds. The empty land felt closer somehow. Still, Eli told himself it was nonsense. The next morning, he picked up a shovel. He didn't call it curiosity. He called it work. Eli Carter drove the shovel into the dry earth just after sunrise. The ground on the Mercer Ranch was harder than it looked. Each strike sent dust into the air and pain through his hands. He told himself he was only digging for a collapsed well or old pipes. Anything practical. Anything normal. But his thoughts kept drifting back to the woman's whisper. "That is forbidden." The shovel struck something solid. Not stone. Not rock. Wood. Eli froze. He slowly brushed the dirt away, revealing old, warped wooden planks. The shape was clear enough to make his heart beat faster. A door. Buried in the earth. Rope handles. Swollen wood. A metal latch rusted shut by time. This wasn't a storm shelter. It wasn't a root cellar. This was hidden. Eli should have buried it back. Instead, he pulled harder. The metal latch broke with a dry crack, and the door lifted with a tired groan. Cold air rushed from the darkness below, carrying the smell of damp dirt and old wood. Not death, something worse. Something forgotten. Eli held his lantern over the opening. The light barely touched the bottom. Just shadows folding over shadows. A narrow wooden ladder appeared, barely held together. "This isn't right," he whispered to himself. But he climbed down anyway. Each rung creaked under his weight. The air grew colder, thicker. When his boots touched the ground, he found himself in a tunnel carved through hardened dirt. The walls were reinforced with wooden beams. This wasn't an accident. It was built. Brick by brick. Beam by beam. Purposefully. Then he heard it. A soft noise behind him. Not footsteps. Not breath. A knock. Slow. Deliberate. 3 taps, from deep inside the tunnel. Eli turned toward the sound, heart pounding. And in that moment, he realized. He was no longer alone underground. The knock echoed through the tunnel, soft but clear. Tap, tap, tap. Eli held the lantern higher, the flame trembling as shadows danced along the wooden beams. The sound wasn't coming from behind him. It was coming from deeper inside the earth. He took a slow step forward. Then another. The air felt thicker, like he was walking inside something breathing. The ground beneath his boots was packed tight, but the feeling of being watched crawled up his spine. A faint whisper reached his ears. Not a voice. Not yet. Just air moving, like someone trying to remember how to speak. Eli stopped. His chest tight. And in that pause, it felt like the darkness itself leaned closer. I appreciate you staying with me, my wonderful friend. I hope you hit the subscribe button, so you're the first to know when our next video drops. Grab a cup of tea or coffee. Settle. Tell me in the comments what hour it is in your day, and which part of the world you're listening in from. The lantern flickered. Eli swallowed hard and pushed forward. The tunnel opened into a wider space. A chamber. Old hooks in the walls, broken chains hanging loosely, a dirt floor disturbed by old digging marks. This wasn't a shelter. This wasn't protection. This was containment. That's when he saw the scratches. Not claw marks. Words. Names. Dozens of them. Carved deep into the beams. Families. Dates. Some scratched so deeply the wood had split. And then Eli noticed something worse. Fresh dirt piled at the center of the room. Something had been digging. Upward. Toward his house. The whisper came again. Closer now. Right behind him. You opened it. You opened it. Eli spun around, lantern swinging as shadows leapt across the chamber walls. There was no one behind him. But the air felt crowded, heavy, like something invisible was standing close enough for him to feel its breath. He backed toward the tunnel, his boots scraping against loose dirt. That was when he saw the hole. In the center of the chamber floor. Fresh dirt piled around it. Not years old. Not abandoned. Recently disturbed. Whatever was digging wasn't trying to get out. It was trying to come up. Eli climbed the ladder faster than he thought possible. His hands slipped on the rungs as he dragged himself back into the daylight, slamming the buried door shut behind him. He tried to calm his breathing. Tried to tell himself it wasn't real. That night, the ranch house felt tighter. The walls seemed to listen. The floorboards groaned with every shift of his weight. And just after midnight, the knocking started again. But not from the tunnel. Not from the ground. From inside the walls. Tap. 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 Eli sat on the edge of his bed, barely breathing. The sound moved. From one wall to the other. Then directly beneath him. The floorboard under his feet lifted slightly. Not enough to break. Just enough to show pressure. Something was beneath him. Something was learning. By morning, Eli knew he couldn't stay silent anymore. He went into town. He found the woman. She was sweeping the steps of the old church. You knew, he said. You tried to stop me. She nodded slowly. They sealed it, she said. Years ago. What did they seal? Eli asked. She looked straight into his eyes. Not a place, she whispered. A hunger. Eli's heart hammered in his chest. A hunger? He echoed, disbelief clinging to his voice. What? What do you mean? The woman's eyes were steady, unflinching. Something older than the ranch. Older than this town. It doesn't die. It waits. And sometimes, it awakens. Eli felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Memories of the dark chamber, the shifting shadows, the floorboards that had moved beneath him, everything clicked into place. This wasn't just a ghost story. This wasn't just a tunnel. It was alive. They tried to contain it, she continued, buried it, sealed it, warded it. But hunger is patient. It listens. It learns. And now, you've opened it again. The words hit him like ice. His hands shook. He thought of the hole in the chamber floor, the tapping beneath his bed. Every sound, every shadow. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. It was testing him. What do I do? He asked, voice barely more than a whisper. She reached into her shawl and pulled out a small, worn book, edges frayed and pages yellowed. This belonged to the first family who tried to stop it. It contains the ways to keep it at bay. For now. Eli took the book, his fingers trembling. Symbols crawled across the pages, unfamiliar and alien, yet somehow instinctively terrifying. And if I fail? He asked, though he already knew the answer. She shook her head, sorrow in her eyes. Then it feeds. And it won't stop. Until there's nothing left. Eli walked back to the ranch, the book clutched to his chest, the weight of inevitability pressing down on him. The walls seemed to whisper as he passed, the shadows stretching longer, darker. He knew the hunger was awake, and it was patient, waiting for him to make a single wrong move. That night, Eli didn't sleep. He listened. He read. He prepared. Because the hunger was coming. And this time, it wasn't just tapping. It was watching.